the generation of the deluge. While the descendants of Cain resembled their father in his sinfulness and depravity, the descendants of Seth led a pious, well-regulated life. And the difference between the conduct of the two stocks was reflected in their habitations. The family of Seth was settled upon the mountains in the vicinity of paradise, while the family of Cain resided in the field of Damascus, the spot whereon Abel was slain by Cain. Unfortunately, at the time of Methuselah, following the death of Adam, the family of Seth became corrupted after the manner of the Cainites. The two strands united with each other to execute all kinds of iniquitous deeds. The result of the marriages between them were the Nephilim, whose sins brought the deluge upon the world. In their arrogance, they claimed the same pedigree as the posterity of Seth, and they compared themselves with the princes and men of noble descent. The wantonness of this generation was in a measure due to the ideal conditions under which mankind lived before the flood. They knew neither toil nor care, and as a consequence of their extraordinary prosperity, they grew insolent. In their arrogance, they rose up against God. A single sowing bore a harvest sufficient for the needs of 40 years, and by means of magic arts they could compel the very sun and moon to stand ready to do their service. The raising of children gave them no trouble. They were born after a few days' pregnancy, and immediately after birth they could walk and talk. They themselves aided the mother in severing the navel string. Not even demons could do them harm. Once a newborn baby running to fetch a light whereby his mother might cut the navel string met the chief of the demons, and a combat ensued between the two. Suddenly the crowing of a cock was heard, and the demon made off, crying out to the child, "Go and report unto thy mother. If it had not been for the crowing of the cock, I had killed thee." Whereupon the child retorted, "Go and report unto thy mother. If it had not been for my uncut navel string, I had killed thee." It was that care-free life that gave them space and leisure for their infirmities. For a time God is a long-suffering kindness passed by the iniquities of men. But his forbearance ceased when once they began to lead unchaste lives. For God is patient with all sins, save only an immoral life. The other sin that hastened the end of the iniquitous generation was their rapacity. So cunningly were their depredations planned that the law could not touch them. If a countryman brought a basket of vegetables to market, they would edge up to it, one after the other, and abstract a bit, each in itself of petty value, but in a little while the dealer would have none left to sell. Even after God had resolved upon the destruction of the sinners, he still permitted his mercy to prevail, in that he sent Noah unto them, who exhorted them for 120 years to amend their ways, always holding the flood over them as a threat. As for them, they but derided him. When they saw him occupying himself with the building of the ark, they asked, "Wherefore this ark?" "Noah, God will bring a flood upon you, the sinners." "What sort of flood?" "If he sends a fire flood, against that we know how to protect ourselves. If it is a flood of waters, then if the waters bubble up from the earth, We will cover them with iron rods, and if they descend from above, we know a remedy against that too. Noah, the waters will ooze out from under your feet, and you will not be able to ward them off. Partly they persisted in their obduracy of heart because Noah had made known to them that the flood would not descend so long as the pious Methuselah sojourned among them. The period of 120 years which God had appointed as the term of their probation having expired, Methuselah died. But out of regard for the memory of this pious man, God gave them another week's respite, the week of mourning for him. During this time of grace, the laws of nature were suspended. The sun rose in the west and set in the east. To the sinners, God gave the dainties that await man in the future world, for the purpose of showing them what they were forfeiting. But all this proved unavailing, and Methuselah and the other pious men of the generation having departed this life, God brought the deluge upon the earth.